Hi, everybody. Welcome to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. I'm Carl. Thanks for tuning in this afternoon. So, looking at a chart here of USO. And before we get going on the top three and everything, I'm going to go pull USO. It's at pretty much the lows of the day. I could take a gain here going into the weekend. So, we're going to pull USO, and you'll be getting an email here shortly. Let me just go out there. I'm just going to use a market order. Now, we've got 15 contracts. All right, we got filled. Bear with me just for a second. Okay, so I just hang on just for a second as I send out the email. Okay, so email and the text is on its way. Should be out there momentarily. And let's go look at it. All right, it's coming through on my end. Just double checking it. Make sure it's on. Okay. So let's talk about USO here. Had a nice trend rider entrance a couple days ago, right? It was a re-entrance strategy, and has rolled over, and with energy selling off hard today, it's down 57 cents, pretty much at the lows of the day. We decided to take this. If you want to stay in it, I think there's still more downside here. It's approaching 34, 34, and even 34.5 has been a pretty decent level in the past for support for it. But it's getting a little bit of a ways away from the 7 right now. So we just wanted to lock in our gains on that. And we're going to be looking for another trade here a little bit later today, if we see one, right? All right, so now I'm logged into the chat here, ready to go. So again, we pulled off USO today, got at $1.94 for a nice gain. Let's run through our positions really fast. Run through our positions. All right, TLT, getting lots of messages around me. So if you hear me pausing, I'm replying to a message. TLT off the lows of the day. Now 106, the 106 area, right about this, it's been some pretty good support for it. And as I stated a little while ago, when TLT turns, it can really turn. If it turned right here, we got a second higher low locked in. Let me zoom in on this. So here's the bottoms down here. You could say that we've had a little bit of a double bottom, which confirmed about the 15th of October. Let me draw a little double bottom for you there. And it's a bullish double bottom. Now this is an ETF, right? Not necessarily going to respond to all the patterns. The area for this to break, for that pattern to be confirmed, is about right here. The highs of the center of the valley, the peak there between the two valleys. It lines up right about with this level of support at 106. We're coming back to it. The last, you can see off the bottom here, we started with a little bit of a, let me get rid of these so you can see it a little bit better. You can see right here, the first low was locked in here. Then we got a new high that was set. Another low locked in here, a new high set. For the next low to be locked in, what better spot than on prior resistance? So we're likely to hold here. I will talk to Jeff here in the next, what time is it? Within the next hour or so. I'll be talking to Jeff about that, and we'll let you know for sure what our final decision on this. Okay, as far as new entries on a Friday, we might hold till Monday for a new entry, but if I see something jumping out the chart of me, then we're going to go for it. And there's some that are looking okay today. All right, so some of the stocks that I want to run through with you real fast. The first one on my list, Comcast. And I talked about this during the training. Let me zoom in on this a little bit for you. Okay, so looking at it through the eyes of a vibe, which I've got a vibe template on there. So through the eyes of a vibe, look at the averages. What are the averages doing? Well, they're all going up. And they're even accelerating going up here in the last few weeks. Last couple of weeks, they're accelerating going up. All right, Max, I'll go check that out, FRX. Okay, I'm just looking at that. Okay. So all three of the major averages going up, the 100, the 200, and the 50 in a locked up position. Now, if it closes like this, it's going to have probably average volume at the most, which, like I've stated before, average volume, it's nice if you can get the strong volumes coming in on these vibe entrances, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen. Now, I've looked at the, another thing I'll look at is a CCI to see if it's an overbought conditions. It's not. It's dropped that down. It's not above a positive 200, which on the CCI would be overbought. It is, in fact, I'll go show you where that's at. Let me put in the CCI there for you. CCI right about 100. Remember, for this to get severely overbought, it's going to be above a 200. So there's nothing too overbought in this area up here. The only concern I'd have is if it sold off during the day and closed back down here around the 48 range. And that happened to a couple of them yesterday. They sold off a little bit that I called out. So when I'm doing the top three, watch them into the close. If it closed like this and it had yesterday's volume, this thing's running higher. Yesterday's volume is a good sign that it's going to break out of here, but if it closed today with that kind of volume, this thing's probably going to 50. I still like the candle. It's a very bold candle. When I say a strong candle, very small wicks, these very small shadows, and a long body, so a Maribozu type of a candle. It's a strong candle. We got that right now. If it was to close just like this, if the volume was a little bit stronger, then I'd be all over it, and it's likely to go higher. Okay, it's got a nice uptrend intact. What it's pinpointing right now, off of the earnings announcement, it turned around and went positive on that day, and today it's pushing up even stronger, up off the 48. A little bit of volume, but it's a great looking vibe entrance. So that would be my number one pick today. We'll watch that into the close. If it sells off into the close, drops back around the 48 mark, even though it's above the 7, I don't think I'd make the trade. I like the big strong bodies like that. All right, some of the other ones that I've been looking at. There's a few of these. So not this one. NOC, not National Oil Well. Okay, and this one settled down a little bit. Earlier on today, it had bounced up, going off the 107 mark with a nice looking candle. It's going to have strong volume by the end of the day. If this closes back towards the highs today, the odds of this going up above 110 increase quite dramatically. All right, let me look at RTN because yeah, it's still doing its nice bullish move. Yeah, for these to push above the 135 mark, if it's pushed above 135 again, pushing up off the 7 like that, this thing's probably going towards 140. Sorry, hang on just for a second. Okay. And then another one I've got my eyes on today is FDX. FDX sold off a little bit too. Now, if we go over to the market, look at the market. It was up earlier in the day. It's driving some of these higher like this as they're a little bit market weighted. And the market sold off. I'd really like to see the market sell off into the close. It's going to set up for some nice bearish entries next week. It would be a little bit, I'd be a little bit hesitant to pull the trigger on a bullish trade if the market sold off into the close. I'd be a little bit hesitant to go to the bullish side. I think the market's a little bit weak up here. Doesn't mean it's going to roll over and go down 5% or something like that. It might just consolidate a little bit up here before it starts to drop. But the market's due for a little bit of a correction. And the corrections this year have just been bought into. And they just make the market stronger, right? Correction, it's just a natural process. FRX, Forest Laboratories. So it's in a buy bull mode. It just doesn't have the entrance right now. And you might have been looking at this earlier, Max, when it was up for the day. For me, if I went in here, if I saw a candle like this, and let me change my color here to blue. If I saw a candle like this right here today, and on that kind of volume that you see today, see the very strong volume there. If I saw that candle, this thing's going to 50. The odds of this going to 50 are very strong because if you look here at the moving average, they're all in a locked up position, right? That's exactly what we're looking for. Let me bring in the vibe because now this isn't a little bit overextended up here towards 10. Let me bring in the CCI. That's another thing. You don't put the indicators there. Just another thing I'll run out and check to see if it's severely overbought or oversold. Okay, well this has done the same thing. It has dropped back down here probably to about the 100 mark. It was at a positive 200 a while ago. It's dropped down slightly, so it's a little bit overvalued at this range, but it's not severely overvalued like it was. This little bit of consolidation right here has really helped out the price. So a push up here off of 47. There's a couple ways to look at this. 47, it broke up through the area. It's held that level, so you could call that a little bit of a support level at this point. Oh, sorry, PW. I got to get in the habit of looking over at my other screen, which is showing what you guys are seeing out there, to make sure I got that in there. But okay, let me zoom in again and show you other things that I'm watching for here. Okay, so right up in this range, you can see they broke up into the $47 range, which it's pretty much held ever since, right? You could call this a support level. It broke up through it once, came back to retest. Now it hasn't dropped through it, so the retest hasn't failed yet it hasn't bounced off of it either. Okay, so very similar to what we were just looking at, you'd want this thing, a nice black candle. Oops, not that one. A little bit bigger candle on this. A good bodied candlestick up in this range, bouncing off at 47, bouncing up off of the 7 would trigger the vibe bull entrance. This is on FRX. It's very close to what we were just looking at. Okay. Another stock that I really like today, and the second one on my top 3 here, is Walgreens. Now, they had a good earnings announcement. It sold off a little bit after the announcement, but it never really broke any big levels of support. Let me zoom in on that and show you what I'm looking at here. All right, so all the averages, locked up position, all go in the same direction. Now what we're looking for here is it to come down to the 7, which it has here recently. It jumped up here above 59. 59 was kind of the key level for it. If you look right across there, you see the key level at 59. Hit it as resistance through here. You could say there's a very rising 3 methods pattern right there, a variation of it, but rising 3, which confirmed about a week and a half ago, about the 22nd, 23rd, something like that. Right, then they had their earnings announcement right here. Jumped up, never broke through support. It did have an ugly bearish candle pattern on it, very close to a gravestone, but never dropped down through that 59 mark, never dropped down through the 7. So a push up today, and the volume's going to be probably pretty average. It might equal yesterday's, but for a stock in an uptrend like that, it's nice to have strong volume again, but you don't necessarily need it. If it closed up in this range up above 60, that would trigger a vibe entrance. The only hesitation I have is to go a little, the stronger stocks into the close today will be the best performers come Monday. If the market does start to drop next week, these wouldn't fall as hard if the market falls. But this one recently has been holding up pretty good besides, really with whatever the market's done. This has been holding up. It hasn't gone up much, it hasn't gone down much. It's been holding its own. A nice breakout here after a tight range like this of between about 58 and 59 the last little while. This stock's likely to break probably up into the $63 area. That's probably the target I'd put at it, with the stop on the 7. Okay, now, so the stop on a vibe is normally going to be on the 7. Now, sometimes the 7's really close to where you're exiting, and so you're going to want to put it at another spot a little bit lower than 7. But typically, especially on a day like today, on an entry here, the stop would be on the 7. And we just write it with the 7. It's pretty simple. Oops, not that one. All right, now I also want to look at one of the top 3s from yesterday. Now this isn't there yet. Now this would not be a vibe. This would be a trend rider. Well, let me bring in the vibe. So over a vibe trade, it's not a true vibe. And I say that because look at the averages. Are the averages, which way are they going? Well, the 200-day down, the 100 days down, yet the 50, the shorter term average, the 50 is really considered an intermediate trend line, is up. Yeah, there's been a slight series of higher highs and higher lows here. They're very, very slight. Really a break lower, pushing off down below the 7 right here, down below the 46 mark. If it had some volume on it, would be a downside trigger, saying it's likely to go down to the $45 to $44 range. Okay, but it's not there yet. Same with the trend rider. As I looked at that yesterday with you for the top 3 and the radar stocks, it's not there. It's got to break into that lower Bollinger Band. And look how tight the bands get. I really like it when you see the Bollinger Band gets tight like this, because breakout's going to happen. This might reverse and break to the upside, and off we go to 50. It might break, go to the downside into the band down here, and run down in the $42 range. Right now, it's just trapped between it. It's dead center between the two. All right, so we're going to wait on that one a little bit. Another trade that I mentioned earlier in the chat was on Tesoro, but it has come back a little bit. Okay, and I'd really want this to be, let's see here, let me bring in the vibe. So here we got the 200-day moving average up and the other two are down. So the longer term trend line is still up. Yeah, I'd really want a strong push down here. I'd like to see this break, best case scenario, below 47. That's been the latest low right here is 47. For that to break, the stock could come down here to the 44, $45 range when that one breaks. Okay, and then Honeywell was one that was up earlier and was triggering a nice bull vibe entrance with everything up, but has since sold off and it's just basically flat. So that's why we always wait till the latter part of the day, because whenever you see us, if you've been with us for a while now, you know we do the majority of our trading the last hour of the day. We will make an exit or an entrance, within a couple hours of the open, or like we did just a little while ago with USO when it's dropping pretty hard like that. To exit trades like that, we will do that occasionally, but most of the time we wait till the end of the day to see how the stocks settle. Because right here, if this thing closed at the highs today, if you had some decent volume, it would be a great trend rider bull. I mean, a vibe bull entrance. Stock likely to go to 90. Where it closed back below the 7, I'm still hesitant right here to go long. What if it starts bouncing back down come Monday or Tuesday off of the 7 through 87 mark, and you get some bigger candles going to the downside? Well, the downside potential becomes more reality than any type of an upside here. Okay, the one stock I've been watching today too is Johnson & Johnson. Okay, this would be a bullish entry. It's triggering a bull vibe entrance today. Okay, a couple things about it though. Where's past resistance? Yes, PW. We just exited USO about 15 minutes ago. We got out of USO. We got out at about $1.94. I got a text and I got the email. Did anybody else have any problems getting that? Our test systems here said it got out. Okay. Did everybody else get the email and the text? No text. All right. If we can have our support look into that. It's been okay. So I got text. I mean, on my phone, we do them as well, just to make sure that we get them. My phone, everything came through. We'll have support just look into it. Yeah, Trade Hound. I just wanted to jump out of that trade. Sorry about that. The specifics are going to go in, and we'll talk about them here. All right. Basically, the specifics on that was it was dropping pretty hard at the time. If you look at a chart of USO, I haven't looked at it since. It's still dropping. There's still really good odds this is going down to the 33.5 area. We got out because we wanted to lock in a gain here. And a drop like this, as hard as it's falling, it's about $1 away from the 7-day average right here, which just increases a little bit of I wouldn't say a snapback because it had been a nice downtrend here. Just increases the odds of maybe a little bit of a gap higher on Monday. I still don't think the downtrend's over. Okay, good PW, good job. Okay, thanks TradeHound. All right, so let's go back to Johnson & Johnson here. So yeah, this triggers a vibe bull entrance. It's triggered right now. If you go out there, look for the vibe bull entrances, if I ran my scan on it, this would show up. It's got all the qualifications. But I always look a little bit more in depth. And I remember I say, when those come out on the triggered stocks, don't just run in to make a trade. You should see the trade in the message center under, it was a trend rider exit. So if you click on past trend rider exits, the vibe bull past trades, you should see it there. Oh, you're right. That message center. Okay. Yep. Thanks, PW. I'll get on that. Resistance has been right up here, just above 93. I mean, in fact, you could call it 93. Because when I look at support and resistance areas, I look to see, all right, well, it got through 93. It might have hit 94. but did it hold 93? It never held 93 up here. Every time it shot above it shot above it up here. Didn't break. It came back to retest. The retest failed every single time, and down it went. Well, now we're up here at 93 again. One big problem right here to try to go bullish on this thing at a lower area of resistance is the lack of volume. If you go in bullish on a vibe entrance on a lack of volume, and you're at a resistance level, it just kind of lessens the chance of it actually breaking through that level. Okay, I'd like to see elevated volumes on that resistance as we're nearing a resistance area like that. Okay, so that's the only thing holding me back here. All right. Let me go back there. Sorry. Let's go zoom in on this right here. The only thing holding me back here from a trade here on this one, and I believe you see this now, is that past level 93. Now that's just a little bit lower than 93, but 93 has been the firm level of resistance. It's tried to break it over here, right? Never got through. It got through, but every time it got through it, the retest failed. It never held that level. So it tells me there's a lot of sellers just above 93. Well, now we're up at that level again. We're right on it, and we got a pretty severe lack of volume today. If you look down the volume, it's really, really light. Okay, so these are some of the details that I want to see when giving out a top three. Is I'd like to see all these. Now I'm doing this before the close. I want to see how these close. If it closed way up here at the highs today and the volume is stuck out, like over here around the 22nd of October, then yeah, this odds are this thing's headed probably towards 95. But if it's going to sell off right here at prior resistance on light volume, I'm not sold. Even though it triggers a vibe entrance, I'm not sold that this thing's going to actually break out. It just tells me it's not ready yet. It's still showing bullish signals, and the odds are there that it's likely going higher, but it puts more odds in our favor if we wait for that little bit of a confirmation. And really, the way this thing moves around, it's not one of these big gappers. It can gap down a little bit, gap up a little bit. It would probably give us another chance come Monday. Right? I mentioned John Deere earlier today. This one's been channeling between about 84.75 and 82. We're right back there at 82. A break out of this channel could do some damage. The channel's been right here, right there, well, just underneath that, and just above 81. There's the channel since August. And you could go back to July practically on this, and every single time it's got down to 80, just above 81, it goes to 84 practically every time, and 82 is there as well. A break right here of 81 on some pretty significant volume could push this down probably lower than even the lowest levels that it's hit here recently, around the $80 mark. That would be a big deal. A break here would suggest it's about a $2 move right here, a little bit over $2. A break there suggests a couple dollars lower, which could put this down to the 79 range pretty easily. But we got to watch for that. If we get some more of these bullish candles coming in early next week, it might do some consolidation like it did here. But the odds favor this going back up towards the 84 mark. Okay, you bet, Ken. All right, so we ran through our positions. SLV, and it's just flat today. We didn't expect today to be a big mover on SLV. It's just remaining flat. Let me look at it. Let's pull up the chart on it here. 21's the level here. Let's zoom in on it. Well, the big level for this is 21, all across here. Below that, it's 20.5, that lower Bollinger Band, but right now it's holding on to 21. So it's on a support level. It's at this would be a point if this were to kind of like the other trades here on TLT. We got a low. This would be a higher low. It's locked in here to see this level hold and start to bounce back up would be a higher low. This thing can really jump. To see this jump 80 cents to a dollar in a day, not out of the question. And that's what we'd be hoping for here on SLV after the big crash that we saw in silver yesterday. The gap yesterday was caused by a big drop in the price of gold and silver, mainly silver. Silver dropped bigger percentage-wise than gold yesterday. That caused this thing to drop right along with it. All right. AUI. Now gold's been getting beat up as well. This held up really nice yesterday compared to what was gold. They had earnings yesterday with AUI, which probably held them up a little bit. But today, when the price of gold dropped like it did, that's why you're seeing a sell-off here today. Support on this 9.5 breaks, $9. So we'll have to see where this ends. Right now, it's at the lows of the day. If it closes above 9.5, you're on a support level. The next one below that would be 9. All right, and it's just because of gold, price of gold. The euro has been falling dramatically. The dollar has been rising. It's pushing a lot of the commodities lower. Yeah, what we got going on is a drop in the euro. Whenever you get a rise in the dollar and the drop in the euro, you're going to get commodity prices dropping. And that's what we've seen pretty much across the board. Look at oil today. Oil's dropped quite a bit. Gold, silver. I'm not a follower of the other metals like that, but the commodities is what's making this move right here. It's a big price in the drop of commodities as the euro drops. But if you look at the FXE, you see how it's just been tanking like that? It's on support. I keep saying that. These stocks keep gapping and gapping. But you look at this, 133.5 has been a pretty decent support level here since September, mid-September. It's right on it again. You look at the UUP. Our 21.8. Right now we're slightly above past resistance, which was right there at 21.7. Okay, the bigger level right here, you can see just slightly right there. Just above 21.8 has been a bigger level. Was big time support here, which is likely to be pretty big resistance for it as well. So it's just slightly above. And you can see it's been traded slightly above this point a couple times over in this range. All right. So that's what's been going on with commodities. Now commodities is extremely volatile. I've never traded commodities. I've talked to people who have, I say who have, and they say you need a crystal ball and one that really works. They say they did really well paper trading, but as soon as they got in live, it's like everybody saw them and they wiped out their accounts. It just happened so fast. Let's look at Bank of America. This has been flat to up slightly today. I mean, I think it's been down a cent or two. It's just holding its own right now. This is going to depend on how the market's going to close. If you look at the S&P, it's back to about break evens, up about 2 right now. If this runs down into the close, that's what's going to give life to Bank of America. Look at IWM. It's been underperforming all day. Still is underperforming. Support here is going to be around the 108 mark. I know that some of you out here have some puts on this. I'd watch this level right here, but given the market and the weakness in this, and the market trying to hold its own, to me is showing more downside that's coming for the market. Intel, watch Intel. Okay, it's had a nice run higher here. It's got higher highs, higher lows locked in here. If this level holds, just right around the 24.25 mark, and the 7 right here, it's likely to run higher. If this level breaks, comes down through, I'd give it about 24. 24 has been past resistance on it. I'll show you that on a little line right here. It's a pretty 24 is really the big number right here. This has not come back to test 24. It doesn't mean it will because it broke it. Okay. Watch it to hold at a higher level. If this holds at say 24, 25 and turns and runs higher and pushes back up through the 7, it's probably going to the 25 range, which for this stock, not a bad little move. Okay, so watch that. If it breaks down through the 7, I wouldn't get bullish on it. I wouldn't get bearish unless it broke 24. I'd need a break in 24. See the volumes here the last few days? It's been a few days of selling. See the volumes, how light they are? So I'm not convinced that this bit of an uptrend's over right here. I just watched around this level and look for it to run higher come Monday off the 24.25 mark. Even if it comes down to 24, if I got a trade on this and I've got a nice profit, I'm going to probably get out when it closes below the 7. All right, but I'd give it till Monday if I was in on this. It's too early for puts. Okay, yeah, just watch it, Johnny. Watch it right here. Push up through the 7 right here and up, and set in another higher low would be very positive for this stock. You bet. One stock that I wanted to show you today is Visa. Now earlier today it had a nice looking little candle pattern on it. A little abandoned formation. It's not a true abandoned baby pattern on it with the gap down yesterday and a gap higher today. What you'd want here to confirm a nice little, probably a fill of the gap that we saw off of around the 205 mark a couple days ago. I'd want this to close up above 200. Right now it's showing a gravestone doji, so that bullish abandoned candle pattern would be off. I wouldn't make a trade here expecting more bullishness right here based on that setup. Now, if I zoom in on this, abandoned candles, abandoned babies, they call them. That's not a true abandoned baby. It's got all the principles of abandoned baby, but a true abandoned baby is just basically going to look like a plus sign, basically like my cursor. If yesterday's candle looked like a cursor, like my cursor, they're just to the left of the yesterday's candle, and then a gap higher today and a little bit of a run higher today, so it closed back, in my opinion, back up above the 200 mark. Hey, this thing's probably going back to 205. But where you've got a gravestone here on a abandoned candle pattern, not likely. I wanted to watch that today and see what it was going to do. I saw it sell off earlier, and it's been flat ever since I saw it sell off. It's to form that little bit of a gravestone. All right, I want to run back through and see what's going on here with some of the stocks I was looking at. So Mosaic, it's not doing anything. Johnson & Johnson was the other one. It's risen a little bit here, but I don't think this is going to set up for us. Not RTN, it was Northrop, Lockheed. Now Lockheed here's got the volume. It just doesn't have the candle right now. If this were to run up over 135 today, a little bit of a stronger candle formation right there, just be a beautiful little vibe entrance. Okay. Another one I was looking at was Honeywell. No, it's sold off. Okay. They can look so good earlier in the day, and then by the end of the day. Now, this is not a trend ride or a vibe, but this price action here, if this closes above the high of 3 days ago, it would be very bullish, and it's got volume back and another move higher. An entrance here, if you put a stop on today's low, it's not a bad looking entrance. It's probably right up towards the $26 area. This thing, the steel, U.S. steel especially, has just been on fire. That huge day yesterday when it ran about $2.50 a few days ago, to see it pull back just slightly, pulled back maybe $1, and then to run higher today, pushing up nicely off of 25, sets this thing up to go probably the 27, 28 range. Not in one shot, but that's what the odds would favor here. So that'd probably be my third pick of the day. It's not. It's again. It's not a trend or a. You could call it a trend rider. You could call it a reentrance. It's in a trend rider trend right here. You could call it a reentrance. But I, out of all the charts, that's one of the stronger bullish trades that I'm seeing right now. So the top three would be Comcast, Walgreens, and X right here, U.S. Steel. So let's look at Walgreens. See if they're holding. So this is still holding it. The volume's going to be about average today, and then Comcast. So it's still holding it. Okay, so these are all three bullish trades. They're very strong looking. The only hesitation I have is a little bit of weakness coming to the market on Monday. They might not fly like we think. Okay, so I'm going to watch these. I'm going to get off now. I'll be back on in about 20 minutes, about 1:30. I'll be back on, and we're going to wrap up the day. Tradehound, good question. They had that. The thing I like about U.S. Steel here was, let's look. And this same thing happened with Joy Global. Happened with 3D. Right, Max? Were you the one that pointed that out to me and I didn't see it? It happened with 3D. The same thing happened here. Notice that. Gaps down big. Runs to finish with a gain. Now it sold off. I mentioned this one yesterday, but it sold off a little bit into the close. And to close just under the 7 like that. This move today, pushing up off the 7, a gap higher, pushing up off the 7, is really bullish. And the volumes are going to be okay for U.S. Steel. As far as the manufacturer numbers, what they do with those ISM numbers, and then there's also the PMI numbers, they survey hundreds of manufacturing managers. I forget the name. They survey them and ask them all kinds of questions. So as far as being directly related to steel, it probably has some to do with that a little bit. That might be one of the pushes higher here, but maybe not a direct correlation, but it will have impact. I'm sure it would. Now, U.S. Steel, my dad worked at a little plant over here in Orem, used to be there, called Geneva Steel. You got me talking about steel. Maybe I should just stop. But he worked there for 33 years in the steel plant. And they're out of business now, Geneva Steel. They were on the West Coast. They were one of the larger steel makers here. But all the overseas steel put them under. It put a lot of them under. So, yeah, it kind of has a little place in my heart, U.S. Steel here. And I'm bullish on it. Good questions. You're right, Max. I'd have to dig into that PMI and see what type of companies that really go into that. But I'm sure I'm with you. I'm pretty sure it's going to have an effect on this with all their factories and things like that buying steel. You're right. Okay. I'll be back on in about 20 minutes to wrap the day up. If you have any questions, I'll be on chat with you and you through email as well. Okay. Take care. Bye bye.